Hello, and welcome to Mission 3, Lesson 4. All right, our student objective today is to interpret and represent patterns when multiplying by 10, 100, and 1000 in arrays and numerically. In other words, in normal human words, what we're really saying is today we are focusing on multiplying by 10, taking a number, multiplying by 10, multiplying it by 100, and multiplying it by 1,000, and seeing the patterns that happen because of that, and how we can just move a number, multiply by 10, by 100, and by 1,000 pretty easily once we get the hang of that pattern. To start with, we're going to focus on multiplying times 10. Okay, let's get, so starting with multiplying times 10. Now, this shouldn't be all that different for you. It should ring a bell in your head like, hey, I multiplied times 10. I see this place value chart. I've done that before in Mission 1, and that is true. So let's just take a look. If you were given this place value chart with these place value disks, first of all, we need to figure out what number is that. So I have 2 10s and I have 3 1s. If I have 2 10s and I have 3 1s, well, what number am I starting with? 2 10s and 3 1s? That's right. It's 23. So I have 23 is my number I'm starting with. But now I want to do 23 times 10. So 23 times 10. And I can look at the place value chart here. Now, if you recall back from Mission 1, we talked about when you multiply times 10, what happens to each number in each place value. If we multiply times 10, every place value moves to the left 1 spot. So if I have 2 10s, it moves up 1 spot, and those 2 10s become 2 hundreds. And if I had the 3 1s and I multiply it times 10, it moves up 1 spot, 1 place value spot, and those 3 1s become 3 10s. And that's it. And then I go, okay, well, what number does that give me? Well, what do I have here? I have 2 hundreds, I have 3 10s, and I have 0 1s. Well, what number is that? If I have 2 hundreds, 3 10s, and 0 1s, I can look right here. Well, that's 230. So 230. So if you're multiplying times 10, everything moves up 1 place value on the place value chart. It just moves to the left 1 place value on the place value chart. Now let's talk about what happens if we multiply times 100. And we're still starting off with, what number are we starting off with again? Same number, 2 10s, 3 1s. We're starting off with 23, and we want to multiply it by 100. So let's take a look. What happens there? Well, let's think. If when we multiply times 10, everything moved up 1 place value on the place value chart, if we're multiplying times 100, how many place values do you think we need to move to the left? So multiply times 10 was 1 place value. So if we multiply times 100, what do we think? Ding, 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 that is right. It's going to move up 2 place values on the place value chart. It's going to move to the left 2. It's always just moving to the left. So now I take those 2 10s and I move them up 1, 2 place values. This is times 100. And so those 2 10s become 2 thousands. And then I take these 3 1s and I move them 1, 2 places on the place value chart. That's times 100. And they become 3 hundreds. All right. And what number is that now? Well, I have 2 thousands, I have 3 hundreds, I have 0 10s, and I have 0 1s. So what number is that? 2,300. 2,300. So a 10, if it's times 10, it moves it up every number up 1 value to the left on the place value chart. If it's times 100, it moves everything up 2 places to the left on the place value chart. And finally, let's talk about what happens if we're multiplying times 1,000. So let's think back. Well, let's look at our number here first. So I have 2 10s, 3 1s, again, same number. What is that? We've established that's 23. And now we're going to multiply that times 1,000. We want to figure out what that equals. Now let's think back and notice if there's been any pattern. And when we multiply times 10, everything in the place value chart, every value moved up 1 place value. Everything moved to the left 1 place value if it's multiplied times 10. If it was multiplied times 100, every value moved up 2 place values on the place value chart. 1, 2. So what do we think if we're multiplying times 1,000 now? How many place values is it going to move up on, or move to the left on the place value chart? Okay. This is the trick that I use to help me. Well, I noticed when it was 10, how many zeros were in 10? There was 1 0 in 10. So everything moved to the left 1 place value. In 100, 100 has 2 zeros. Everything moved to the left 2 place values. So 1,000 I look has 1, 2, 3 zeros. How many place values do you think each number is going to move up? 3 zeros. Did I hear you say it? Yes, I heard you say it. Someone in the back. You said it's going to move up 3 place values on the place value chart. Okay, so if I have my, I'm starting off with 23 again. I have my 2 10s. They move up 1, 2, 3 place values on my place value chart. See, I went from 1, 2, 3. I ended up here. That's times 1,000. And if I have my 3 1s, they need to move up. It's still multiply times 1,000. Each value is times 1,000. So it needs to move up 3 place values on the place value chart. So I have 1, 2, 3, 1. And what I'm doing is, notice I'm just moving them. And again, I can check, did I move 3? Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Yes, I did. So what did I end up with then after I moved them? I ended up with 2 10,000s, 3 thousands, 0 hundreds, 0 10s, and 0 1s. What number does that equal? 23,000. So as you're working through this lesson, just kind of use that zeros trick even. Is count how many zeros it has that you're multiplying. If it's by 10, you move up everything to the left 1 place value on the place value chart. If it's times 100, well, there's 2 zeros there. I move everything to the left 2 place values. And if it's 1,000, well, there's 3 zeros. I move everything to the left 3 place values. And notice it's not just, if I had 23, I didn't just move the 10s over 3 spots. I didn't just move the 1s over 3 spots. I moved them both. I move whatever number I start off with, I have to move each place value over that many spots. Okay? And that's what you're going to be working on throughout this lesson. As always, if you have any questions, you may ask me or your teacher. Good luck.